Imagine having every earthly advantage available to a human being.
Yeah, just total privilege.
Right. Picture possessing massive wealth,
Yeah.
the highest tier of education, and unparalleled political leverage.
You're positioned at the absolute top of the global food chain.
Yes, the very top. And then, imagine waking up the next morning and losing all of it.
Oh, wow. Just gone.
Gone. Every bit of that status vanishes because of a single rash decision.
It is a staggering thought.
It really is. Well, welcome to Reformed Thinking. Today, our deep dive is a thorough examination of Exodus chapter 2, verse 15.
Yes, I am looking forward to this discussion.
Me too. It's a single verse in the text, but it captures the precise moment Moses lost everything.
It is a massive pivot in the historical record.
Spot on. Our mission today is to examine how God takes a man from the peak of Egyptian society, shatters his self-reliance completely, and places him at the total isolation of a barren desert.
Right. We are going to look at the total failure of human activism.
Yeah, and the absolute necessity of divine intervention, what theologians call monergism.
Yes, meaning God does 100% of the saving work.
Yeah, right, with zero help from human effort. Okay, let's unpack this.
Good.
Moses grew up in the palace, but this verse shows him running for his life. What is the historical reality he is stepping out of?
Well, to grasp the magnitude of this fall, we have to understand the geopolitical reality of the era.
Set the scene for us.
We are looking at the New Kingdom period of Egypt, most likely during the 18th dynasty.
Okay, so this was a major peak for them.
Absolutely. This was an era of unprecedented military expansion and economic prosperity.
Egypt was essentially the superpower of the ancient world.
They were. They had the gold, the grain, the chariots, the architecture.
They had everything.
Yes, but it is crucial to recognize that Egypt was a totalitarian state.
Right. It was not a democracy.
Far from it. The Pharaoh was not just a secular political executive or a prime minister.
He was viewed as a god, right?
Yeah, precisely. He was worshipped as the living incarnation of Horus.
Wow.
And because of that, the Pharaoh maintained the divine cosmic and civil order, a concept the Egyptians called Mot.
A Mot, okay.
Yes. Because of this, the justice system was directly overseen by the royal court.
So any disruption to the social order was a disruption to the cosmos itself.
That is the perfect way to phrase it. So when Moses struck and killed an Egyptian taskmaster who was beating a Hebrew slave...
Yeah, that wasn't just a simple civil infraction.
No, not at all. It was
Right.
not a local manslaughter case that would be handled by a municipal judge.
Right, it is much bigger than that.
The Egyptian penal system treated the killing of an Egyptian citizen by a foreigner, or in defense of a foreign slave, as a direct capital offense.
So it was treason.
Spot on. It was an act of treason against the royal household and a rebellion against Mot itself.
And Moses was the adopted son of Pharaoh's daughter.
Right, he was an insider. His action threatened the security of the entire royal establishment from the inside out.
That context makes his decision look completely insane from a political perspective.
It really does.
I think about it like someone trying to fix a massive systemic injustice using a sledgehammer in an unauthorized vigilante operation.
That is a very accurate analogy.
Because, Moses saw the oppression of his people, the Hebrews. He knew he was one of them.
Yes, but he also had the prince's signet ring.
Right. He had the military training. He assumed his royal status would shield him from the consequences of his actions.
He was leaning on his worldly position.
He probably thought, I am a prince of Egypt. I can take out one abusive guard, and no one will question me.
And he also assumed that his fellow Hebrews would immediately recognize him as their deliverer.
Yeah, he thought he could just step in, swing the sledgehammer, and start a revolution on his own terms.
It backfires spectacularly.
It totally does.
Yeah.
The very next day, the Hebrews reject his authority.
They ask him, "Who made you a judge over us?"
Yeah, they essentially throw his murder right back in his face.
And then the news reaches the palace.
The whole operation collapses in 24 hours.
It is a catastrophic failure. Theologically, we refer to this inclination as carnal security.
Carnal security. Let's talk about that.
Well, fallen humanity possesses an idolatrous desire to build God's kingdom using worldly prestige and secular leverage.
Right, we want to use the world's tool.
Yes. We see this inclination even among the leaders of the covenant community.
So it is a massive temptation to run ahead of the divine decree.
Precisely. We try utilizing the methods of the earthly city. Moses attempted to operate in the energy of his own flesh.
I mean, He was chosen by God, yes,
Right, and he was educated in all the wisdom of the Egyptians.
but he relied on human pragmatism and physical violence.
And the moment he tried to manufacture deliverance through his own strength, his designs collapsed.
Into immediate and humiliating ruin.
Yes. He thought he could use the machinery of Egypt to accomplish the will of Jehovah.
And Exodus chapter 2, verse 15, stands as a permanent monument to that collapse.
It really exposes the vanity of trusting in earthly princes or human strategies to accomplish spiritual ends.
When the flesh tries to do the work of the Spirit, disaster is the only possible outcome.
Absolutely.
So this massive failure in judgment triggers an instant violent reaction from the most formidable empire on earth.
The blowback is immediate.
Moses cannot stay in the palace because he's now a traitor.
And he cannot hide in the slave quarters either.
Right, because the Hebrews just rejected him and exposed his crime.
He literally has nowhere to go.
This pushes Moses into a frantic escape. We move from the illusion of control to a desperate flight for survival.
The contrast is jarring.
It is. And here's where it gets really interesting. Because the text does not just say Moses ran away.
Right, the phrasing is very deliberate.
I know the original Hebrew gives us a very specific rapid-fire breakdown of how this happens.
It does. It reads almost like an action movie script.
Break that down for us.
Well, when we look at the syntactic architecture of Exodus 2, verse 15, we find a highly structured sequence.
Okay, what kind of sequence?
It is a sequence of 5 distinct clauses. The language here is relentless.
Oh, wow, 5 clauses.
Yes, driven by a grammatical construction called the Hebrew vav consecutive, this indicates a rapid sequential chain of historical events.
So it's just boom, boom, boom.
Spot on. One action immediately triggering the next. It is not a chaotic string of accidents.
Right, God is orchestrating it.
Every action occurs under the immediate governance of divine providence. Let us look at those clauses.
Let's do it. What are the first 2?
The first 2 state that Pharaoh heard this matter and he sought to slay Moses.
Okay, so the king finds out and issues a death warrant.
Yes, but the specific Hebrew word the author chose for sought is webakol.
Webakol. What does that imply?
It is a peel imperfect verb. It does not just mean making a general inquiry or putting up a wanted poster.
It is more intense than that.
Much more intense. It is a word used for an active, determined, lethal hunt. A bloodthirsty manhunt.
Wow, so Pharaoh has mobilized the state apparatus.
Yes, the ancient equivalent of the secret police. They are tracking down Moses to execute him.
The full weight of the empire is crashing down on one man.
That is exactly the picture.
I mean, that lethal manhunt leads directly into the third action, which is the actual flight.
Right. The text says Moses fled.
And what is the Hebrew word there?
The word is webra. Again, it signifies a rapid escape driven by pure fear and sheer necessity.
So he is not packing his bags and taking a leisurely chariot ride out of town.
No, he is running for his life. He is sweating, he is panicking, he is looking over his shoulder.
Just sheer terror. And then we hit the final 2 actions, which describe where he ends up.
Yes, the text says Moses dwelt in Midian and he sat by a well.
Okay, so he dwelt and he sat.
And those final 2 clauses contain a fascinating rhetorical feature called anadiplosis.
Anadiplosis, what does that do?
The author uses this technique to zoom the camera in, so to speak. The same verb, wajib, is used in both phrases.
So wayeb means to dwell or to sit.
Right. First, the text says he dwelt in the land of Midian, which establishes the macro environment.
His new geographical reality. He has crossed the border.
Yeah. Then the camera immediately narrows down, repeating the verb to say he sat down by the well.
Oh, I see.
It moves the reader from the wide shot of the foreign land to the specific microenvironment.
His providential station of waiting.
Spot on. He is on one specific rock next to one specific well.
The grammar itself shows a cascading sequence directed by God.
The invisible hand of Jehovah's eternal decree is governing every single movement.
From the wrath of Pharaoh in the throne room to the specific well where Moses finally collapses in the desert.
It is a staggering display of providence.
I have to pause here because I think a lot of listeners might be wrestling with theological tension.
What kind of tension?
Well, we often talk about Moses as this great towering hero.
Of course.
The book of Hebrews praises him for choosing to suffer with the people of God rather than enjoy the fleeting pleasures of sin in Egypt.
He is in the hall of faith.
Right. But right here in Exodus 2, we see him running away in absolute terror.
He is panicking.
He is fleeing to save his own skin. How do we reconcile that? Doesn't fleeing in pure terror contradict the idea that he is a man of faith?
That is a crucial question, and addressing it requires us to refute modern prosperity gospel ideas.
Yes, please do.
There is a false teaching today that asserts men and women of faith are somehow immune to fear, failure, or physical limitations,
People think that if you have enough faith, you will never experience panic.
or geographical displacement. But the biblical text provides a very realistic, unvarnished portrait of Moses.
He had to use his own physical endurance to cross the barren Sinai Peninsula.
Right. As an ordinary, desperate fugitive, no mystical chariot arrived from the sky to transport him to safety.
God did not perform an ecstatic, immediate miracle to beam him out of danger.
Instead, God operated through the silent, ordinary, grueling processes of his decree.
So Moses' flight reveals both the consequence of his premature sinful action and the preserving providence of God.
Absolutely. Faith and human weakness are not mutually exclusive in the lives of those God calls.
God uses ordinary, exhausting means, like running across a desert until your lungs burn, to preserve his chosen instruments.
It is a heavy reality, but a comforting one.
Definitely. And running from Pharaoh physically required crossing a massive border,
Yes, moving from one extreme to another.
which meant trading extreme luxury for extreme desolation. Let's paint that picture for a second.
Okay.
Moses leaves the Nile Delta.
Oh,
Now, if you have ever seen pictures of the Nile Delta or read about it historically,
it is incredibly lush.
right, it is a green, highly irrigated center of agriculture and wealth. Water is everywhere. Life is everywhere.
And he leaves all of that behind.
Yes, and plunges into the barren, rocky, unforgiving terrain of the Gulf of Gaba.
He arrives in Midian. The landscape is scorched.
So who are the people living in Midian, and why does this specific geographical shift matter so much to the narrative?
Well, Midian was a rugged wilderness located outside the direct administrative and military control of the Egyptian Empire.
So it was beyond Pharaoh's jurisdiction.
Right. Which provided the physical safety Moses needed.
But who are the people?
The people inhabiting this land were the Midianites, who were descendants of Abraham through his second wife, Keturah.
Keturah. Okay, that is a vital detail to recognize.
It is. By placing Moses in Midian, Providence situates him among people who have a historical connection to Abraham.
But they are definitively outside the direct covenant line of Isaac and Jacob.
Precisely. Moses is entirely removed from his brethren.
This geographical relocation represents the total stripping of his worldly position.
He goes from being an adopted son of Pharaoh's daughter
Vested with immense geopolitical influence and surrounded by luxury.
to being a penniless alien.
Wow.
He is a resident alien in a foreign land, entirely dependent on the hospitality of strangers.
In fact, he later names his first son Gershom, right?
Yes, that name literally confesses this alien condition.
He says, I have been a sojourner in a foreign land. He recognizes his total isolation.
It is a massive demotion.
To put that into a modern perspective for you, the listener, imagine stepping down from a corner office in the headquarters of a global superpower.
You have the tailored suits, the security detail, the unlimited expense account,
Everyone knows your name. People leap up when you walk into the room.
and within 24 hours,
You are working manual labor in an unmapped desert, wearing rags,
completely cut off from your old life.
and knowing you can never, ever go back. It is a staggering drop in status.
The psychological toll must have been heavy.
Waking up the next morning, looking around at the dirt and rocks and realizing, I did this to myself. I ruined everything.
It has to be crushing.
So why does God orchestrate this? Why is this massive demotion a decreed element of Moses' sanctification?
God decrees this specific demotion because he must ensure that the future deliverance of Israel can never be attributed to Egypt.
Like attributing it to their political strategy or military might.
Right. Or human wealth. Consider the alternative.
What if he had succeeded as a prince?
Exactly. Well, if Moses had succeeded while still holding his title as an Egyptian prince, the deliverance would look like a political coup.
It would just look like an internal administrative shift within the Egyptian empire.
The historians would write it off as a clever negotiation by a rogue royal family member.
So God systematically deconstructs Moses' earthly dependencies.
Yes, so that when the Exodus finally occurs, faith will rest solely on the grace and strength of Jehovah.
Moses had to be thoroughly emptied of his self-sufficiency,
The shepherd's staff had to replace the royal scepter.
and the quiet at the desert had to replace the clamor of the court.
God does not build his kingdom with the resources of Egypt. He breaks the pride of the flesh to prepare his servant.
God wanted it to be abundantly clear that a stuttering shepherd with a wooden stick brought the greatest empire on earth to its knees.
Not a brilliant military tactician.
And this displacement leads to a very specific physical location.
Yes, the well.
The text says Moses stops running and finally sits down by a well.
The Hebrew uses the definite article here, meaning the well.
Abers.
Right. In the ancient Near East, a well is not just a place to get a quick drink of water.
It's the absolute center of nomadic life.
It is the coffee shop, the town square, the trading post, and the survival hub all rolled into one.
If you want to meet people, or if you just want to stay alive in the desert, you go to the well.
Yes, the well is a critical motif in biblical narrative.
Talk about the canonical parallels.
When we examine those parallels, we see that wells in the book of Genesis consistently mark providential meetings.
And covenantal continuity.
Right. Abraham's servant meets Rebekah at a well when seeking a bride for Isaac.
Jacob meets Rachel at a well.
These are locations of divine appointment. Moses, sitting at this specific well, prepares him to meet the daughters of Reuel.
Reuel, the priest of Midian.
Yes, and this encounter will lead to his marriage to Zipporah and his integration into pastoral life.
So the author highlights the well to assure the reader that Moses is not wandering aimlessly in a void.
He is not just lost in the sand.
He is being guided by the invisible hand of providence.
To the exact place where his next phase of preparation will begin.
The exhausted fugitive arrives at the precise threshold of his new vocation.
It is beautifully orchestrated.
I hear that, and I see the providential setup, but I have to raise a logical concern that I'm sure their listener is feeling right now.
What is the concern?
Think about the timeline. The Israelites are groaning under brutal genocidal slavery in Egypt right now.
Yes, Pharaoh is murdering their infants.
They are crying out for rescue. The brick quotas are insane.
It is a horrific situation.
And God takes his chosen deliverer, brings him to a well in Midian, and puts him on ice for 40 years.
Moses spends 4 decades tending sheep in the desert.
Doesn't that seem like a massive, agonizing delay in justice?
It certainly feels that way.
Why make the bleeding people of Israel wait 40 years while Moses learns how to be a shepherd? It feels incredibly inefficient.
Humanly speaking, it appears to be an agonizing delay. It feels inefficient to our finite minds.
So how do we understand it?
This introduces the theological concept of hidden years.
Hidden years.
Yes. Human deliverance attempted in the energy of the flesh must give way to divine deliverance.
And that transition requires time.
God's preparation of his servants often involves long seasons of obscurity,
where they must learn to wait patiently upon a sovereign timetable.
Moses had to learn lessons in Midian that he could never learn in Pharaoh's court.
Like what?
He had to learn the geography of the wilderness where he would later lead the entire nation of Israel.
Oh, right. He had to learn how to find water, how to navigate the terrain, how to survive.
More importantly, he had to be stripped of his impatience and his arrogance.
That makes a lot of sense.
If we look across redemptive history, we see this pattern repeatedly. God forms his most significant figures in places the world completely overlooks.
Think of Joseph spending years forgotten in a damp Egyptian prison.
Or think of David fleeing from Saul, hiding in dark caves in the wilderness while a madman sat on the throne.
Or the Apostle Paul spending years in Arabia before his primary missionary journeys began.
The waiting period is an intentional, rigorous school of humility.
So the waiting is not wasted when God decrees it.
Absolutely not.
That reframes the entire concept of waiting. Moses' life, his initial escape, his complete failure, and his quiet time at the well sets a pattern.
A pattern that points forward.
Yes, it points forward to an even greater reality for you, the listener. It is not just a biographical sketch of an ancient leader trying to find his way.
It is a shadow of something much larger.
Let's shift the lens to redemptive history. How does Moses, sitting at this well as a flawed type, point us to the perfect antitype, Jesus Christ?
Well, Moses stands as the great typological mediator of the Old Covenant.
Define a type for us real quick.
A type is a historical figure or event that prefigures a greater, perfect reality to come.
Okay, so we see striking parallels between Moses and Jesus Christ right from the beginning.
We do. Both were targeted by murderous kings in their infancy.
Moses was hunted by Pharaoh, who ordered the Hebrew boys thrown into the river.
And Jesus was hunted by King Herod, who ordered the slaughter of the innocents in Bethlehem.
Both were initially rejected by their own brethren.
Right. The Hebrew man asked Moses, "Who made you a prince and a judge over us?"
Similarly, the Gospel of John states concerning Jesus, he came to his own, and those who were his own did not receive him.
These historical trials in Moses' life provide a shadow of the suffering and humiliation that the Savior would endure.
But the shadow is not the substance. The contrast between Moses and Jesus is where the theology becomes staggering.
The contrast is massive.
Moses was a guilty sinner. He killed a man, hid the body in the sand, and then fled to save his own life because his carnal, violent efforts failed.
He ran out of sheer terror.
Jesus, on the other hand, is the sinless Son of God.
Yeah.
He never operated in the weakness of the flesh.
The infinite contrast here is that Jesus did not run away from fear. He did not fail in his mission.
That is the crux of the distinction.
It is. Moses was a flawed mediator who needed saving himself. He had blood on his hands from a crime he committed.
Christ is the perfect antitype.
When the hour of Christ's betrayal arrived in the Garden of Gethsemane, he did not flee the face of his enemies.
He had every opportunity to run, but he walked willingly into the ultimate wilderness of divine wrath.
He offered his own life as a substitutionary atonement for the elect.
So Moses' humiliation in the desert of Midian was a temporary preparation for a temporal, earthly deliverance of one nation from physical slavery.
While Christ's voluntary humiliation, his suffering, and his death achieved an eternal, irreversible redemption for his entire church.
Freeing them from the eternal penalty of sin.
Moses escaped death because his hour had not yet come. Christ gave himself over to death specifically because his hour had come.
And that brings us back to the image of the well. I love this visual comparison because it is so stark.
The two wells.
Yes. You have Moses sitting exhausted at the physical well in Midian. He is a fugitive, he is thirsty, he is terrified, and he is seeking refuge for himself.
He needs the water to physically survive the afternoon.
Fast forward to the New Testament, and we find Jesus sitting at a well in Samaria in John chapter 4.
The contrast is brilliant.
Jesus is not there seeking refuge from a failed rebellion. He is not running from the authorities.
He is sitting there to offer the water of everlasting life to an outcast Samaritan woman.
Moses needs the well to survive. Jesus is the well of living water for ruined sinners.
The contrast of the two wells perfectly encapsulates the movement from the Old Covenant to the New Covenant.
Moses is a recipient of grace at the well. Christ is the dispenser of grace at the well.
Understanding this massive shift changes how we view the biblical narrative.
But it also alters how we view our own seasons of failure and isolation today.
We are not meant to look at Moses and simply say, try harder, or be brave like Moses.
Because that is moralism.
Right. We are meant to look at Moses' failure, his panic, and his absolute inability to save himself, and recognize our desperate need for a mediator.
A mediator who never fails, who never sins, and who never has to run from the justice of God.
Spot on.
Knowing that completely changes the application of this text. Let's bring this directly into the modern church and into the listener's personal life.
Let's do that.
The text acts as a prophetic indictment against relying on human strategy.
It really does.
We see churches today operating a lot like Moses in Egypt, trying to use secular leverage, political influence, and worldly tactics to get spiritual results.
It is as if we think we can just grab the sledgehammer of cultural influence and force a revival.
Indeed, it is a severe critique of the modern seeker-sensitive movement and the reliance on corporate marketing tactics within the church.
The contemporary church is often infected with the very pragmatism that ruined Moses' early efforts.
The world, and sadly many church growth models, say that we must utilize the palace of Egypt.
They argue we must use emotional manipulation, entertainment, high production value, and secular administrative authority to advance the kingdom.
They want to use the tools of the 18th dynasty to do the work of the Holy Spirit.
But this text condemns that pragmatism. Christ says to go to the backside of the desert and rely on the word alone.
True obedience requires casting away carnal weapons.
We must reject these fleshly methodologies and rest entirely on the monergistic saving work of Christ.
Utilizing the ordinary means of grace appointed by God.
Yes, the preaching of the word, the administration of the sacraments, and prayer.
If you are listening to this right now, you might be realizing you are in your own personal Midian.
You might be in a season of intense obscurity.
Maybe you are facing professional ruin, a collapsed reputation, or doors that God has firmly closed in your face.
Maybe you tried to do the right thing, but you did it in your own strength and everything fell apart.
The flesh will tell you that God has abandoned you.
The enemy will whisper that your failure has disqualified you forever.
Or that the waiting is a sign of divine apathy. You look around at the desert and think, this is the end of the line.
But you must not interpret your Midian as divine abandonment.
Those seasons are the intentional, loving discipline of a sovereign Father.
God is systematically carving out your pride. He is breaking your reliance on your own intellect, your own wealth, and your own strategies.
When you find yourself displaced or silenced, remember that the waiting is never wasted when God decrees it.
God is forming you in the hidden places. He is teaching you to trust him when the chariots of Egypt are no longer available to you.
Furthermore, if you are suffering under the threats of hostile circumstances or earthly tyrants, recognize that they are entirely subject to the immutable decree of Jehovah.
Enemies of God often unintentionally advance the very plan they hate.
Pharaoh sought to remove Moses from the earth. God used Pharaoh's wrath to remove Moses from Egypt so he could be trained in the wilderness.
The sovereign counsel of God orchestrates even the hostility of the world for the ultimate good of his people.
That brings us to a massive synthesis of everything we've covered today.
We have traced an incredible shift captured in just one single verse of Scripture.
We went from the raging, lethal throne room of Pharaoh, the most powerful man on the planet, commanding armies and executing justice,
To the quiet stillness of a fugitive sitting by a desert well, possessing absolutely nothing.
the decrees of earthly monarchs, no matter how terrifying they seem in the moment, are absolute dust compared to the sovereign counsel of God.
God dismantles our Egyptian palaces to give us his Midian provision.
The transition from the palace to the well is the transition from human presumption to divine preparation.
We must learn to view our lives through the lens of providence rather than the lens of immediate success.
When God strips away our carnal security, he is doing us a severe mercy.
Absolutely.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
A parting thought.
Yes. If God used the murderous wrath of a Pharaoh, the total loss of a royal identity, and the catastrophic, sinful failure of Moses to perfectly align the salvation of an entire nation,
What hidden preparation is he actively working in the quiet, seemingly broken Midian seasons of your own life?
stop trusting the chariots of Egypt. Lay down your fleshly schemes.
And rest entirely on the finished work of the true mediator, Jesus Christ.
Who met us at the well of our sin and gave us the water of life.